So we got my V12 F100 behind me, and for those who don't remember, because it's been a while, because I've been waiting on motor mounts to come from Japan, and they took like 3 months, but it is a 58 Ford F100 sitting on a Lexus LS400 chassis with a Toyota 1GZ V12 and a bunch of other goodies that we're doing to it. It's gonna be a fairly, relatively simple project, as much as I'm capable of doing that. And right now we are working on a lot of things. We got Grant over here cutting the floor out of the factory bed, because we're gonna run the factory bedside sort of as a, just a visual bedside. And then we're gonna build a bed box on the inside of that. We got the motor sitting in place on the factory LS400 mounts, which is kind of incredible. You just have to do a massive cut out of the firewall, and then it fits right in place. It's super easy. And I don't know, but let's just get to it. Let's go. And also back here we have the diff. Me and Grant got the axles put in. All of this was actually a bitch to find, because this is a, I don't know what year LS400, but it's the early year. So it's like a 90 to 92, something like that. And parts for those are really hard to find. You can put a newer subframe in these and put all the newer parts, and then it accepts all the newer Toyota diffs, like a FRS. You can put an FRS diff in the newer LS400 subframe, but not in the older one. So I finally found a diff. We are pulling that apart so we can weld it, because welded diffs are just better. And then we're gonna get that together. And then we're gonna have to figure out if we can get it, or if we can get a drive shaft made to go from this to the Toyota Century Trans. Other than that, we're just partying. We're just going for it. Now we got the bed cut into pieces, and all of these pieces are still really heavy, but they are significantly lighter than we started with. All the stuff we were throwing away, all that stuff was really heavy. This is still, I don't even know if I can pick this up one-handed. Can't balance it. But those are still really heavy, and it kind of sucks. It feels like it's rear heavy, and there's still a lot of this, which is really thick metal. So I'm gonna try to cut all that out as much as possible, really. And then this whole lower section is getting cut out. I might even just do away with this whole front panel, because I was gonna run the factory front panel, but we could just run a custom one and just replicate it, basically, because I can do the bend on the top and I can do the bead rolling, and then at that point, it's basically the same panel, just lighter. We got the diff welded, factory LS400 diff. All that's welded up. And now what we can kind of do is start figuring out where these go. Oh, and another thing I decided on, which I haven't really discussed yet, is we do have the factory tailgate right there. And the plan is to actually have a semi-functioning tailgate, at least. Probably in the sense of we'll just put like a pin on each side and have it removable. That is so that we can use the bed as an actual bed and put, whatever stuff in there. I just think it would look cool having like a motorcycle in the bed of the truck, or just generally using the truck bed as a truck bed and doing truck things with it, I guess. But next up, we're gonna start cutting the square tube that we have and building a bed structure, including a front wall and side walls. And that's gonna be the actual box of the bed. And then these are just going to be bed sides for the outside. And those could be replaced with fiberglass replicas later, because they do have fiberglass ones, which is pretty sick. So now I did decide I'm gonna get rid of the front panel, the factory one, just because it was too heavy. But I started putting the floor tubes, whatever you should call them, I don't really know. I cut these to, that's about the width that they sit, I think. If not a little bit, they'll be a little bit further out. But basically I'm gonna build the floor structure and then sheet metal over it. And this will be the bed box. And then the bed sides are just going to bolt to the box. So I could take the bed sides off and have a full functioning bed still. These are just gonna be visual, like aesthetic. But now what I'm working on, I I'm waiting for this weld through primer to dry, and I'm working on the rear shock mounting. I decided against doing the cantilever stuff, which is right here. I decided against that strictly because this geometry wasn't right, and I would have had to redesign it completely, and I didn't feel like doing that, so I'm just gonna use the coilover as a coilover, CNC plasma cut a mount, and then just weld it up, and the back of the truck, or I guess the whole truck from this point, will be rolling. I also want to note it's a little uneven right now. I need to lower that side or raise this one, either or. But I did raise the front of the truck, so it is off of the ground now, and it is at a drivable height, I guess you could say, with a good amount of wheel well room. Still might have to trim some of that, because my buddy Jake Caldwell with the 51 Chevy, he said I'm going to have to trim that. So we'll see. We don't bottom out. Ooh, I almost fell though. So we don't bottom out, so that is good. The rear should be on suspension shortly. So now I did also get all the Serial 9 suspension that I bought from TF Works, got all that installed. Got the rear diff in the truck, welded and everything, and the axles are in there, but they're not bolted to the diff because I don't have that hardware. So it's all just chilling right there. I'll get to that when we get to that. I need a drive shaft too to go from the stock rear diff to the stock Century transmission. So that is going to be a bit tough to find someone who can make that, but I'll figure it out. Now, if you can see that, it looks like it says about 430 pounds, which is what this spring rate is on the spring. It's a little on the stiff side. Now, I don't know what's making the knocking sound. I think this is hitting this, so I'll have to grind it a little bit. I do think I'm going to have to go with a lighter spring rate, unless when I put the bed walls and all the other stuff in place, it helps put a little bit more force on the springs, and maybe we'll soften it up a little bit. But for now, that's good enough for me. But then I also was able to get these 2 bars tacked in place. Doesn't really get me anywhere, besides I have a starting point. And then there are all the other bars. I ran out of tubing, so this is just 1x1 thin wall. I think that bed structure will be pretty sick. I'm also going to build the tubs into it as well. And then this is going to be in the wheel well. And then the bed is going to be sealed off like back over here. All right, so we are going to push this outside tomorrow and call it quits for a little while, because we have to really put in work on Corey's car getting it ready for SEMA, and my car getting it ready for Grid Life. Both the cars need body worked and painted and this and that and the other. So I really shouldn't work on other projects that aren't critical with a time. And also the 911, not really critical with time. So for the next month, we're going to be working on these 2 cars. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I love you.